Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end with sharp cuts after hitting record highs in early trade. The Sensex ends over 600 points lower. The Nifty drops over 160 points. Bank stocks lead the decline. SEBI chief warns of froth in some pockets of the market. Announces stress tests for mid-cap and small-cap funds if their trading volumes are more than 3 times the average. Also red flags potential signs of manipulation in the SME IPO platform. Tata Sons is unlikely to go public in the foreseeable future. Sources say multiple options, including debt reductions or hiving off Tata Capital, are being considered to adhere with RBI rules which mandate a listing by September 2025. Select Tata Group stocks decline due to the uncertainty. Supreme Court dismisses State Bank of India's plea seeking more time to disclose details on donors of electoral bonds, saying the data is readily available. Orders SBI to submit details to the Election Commission by tomorrow. Warns of contempt action if SBI fails to comply. Congress leader Jaya Thakur moves the Supreme Court to restrain the government from appointing a new election commissioner. Asked that a panel comprising the Prime Minister, the Leader of Opposition and the Chief Justice decide on the new appointments. Arun Goyal resigned as Election Commissioner, leaving only the Chief Election Commissioner, Rajiv Kumar, in the 3-member poll body just ahead of the general elections. Cash-strapped Byju's apologizes to employees after delaying February salary payment, claims 25% of staff in the base salary bracket have received full payments, blames investors for blocking the rights issue and creating financial constraints. No signs of a ceasefire in Gaza even as the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins. Hamas blames Israel for the failure even as the UN says hunger is everywhere in Gaza. Netanyahu rejects Biden's charge that his approach is hurting Israel instead of helping it. India signs a landmark free trade agreement with 4 nations that are not part of the EU, including Switzerland and Norway. Expects investments worth $100 billion over the next 15 years. Oppenheimer wins big at the Academy Awards, picks up 7 awards, including Best Picture, Best Director for Nolan, and Best Actor in a Leading Role for Cillian Murphy. Emma Stone wins the Oscar for Best Actress for her role in Poor Things. Well, all the Oscar action in a bit, but let's start with the market action. The Sensex and the Nifty did hit a record high on opening bell, but then we saw profit booking setting in, and that led to the markets falling, largely led by bank stocks. So at the end of trade today, the Sensex was down over 600 points, 73,502 is where it closed. The Nifty lost about 160 points. The Nifty Bank, as we pointed out, bank stocks leading the fall today, 500 points low. The Nifty Mid-Cap also saw some pain, down by about 200 points today. That was the picture as far as the markets were concerned. Well, staying with market action, SEBI Chief Madhabi Puri Butch has warned of froth in some segments of the market. Now, speaking to a select group of reporters, the SEBI chief said valuations are going, and I quote, off the charts in some pockets. She announced stress tests for mid-cap and small-cap funds in the event of heavy redemptions. Now, stress tests will be conducted if the trading volumes are 3 times higher than the average. Results of this stress test will be made public on the 15th of March. Here's the SEBI chief.
There are pockets of froth. Navneet, that was the phrase you liked, you preferred. Segments or sections of froth in the market. So, some people call it a bubble, some may call it froth. The question is, it may not be appropriate to allow that bubble to keep building, because if it keeps building, then when it bursts, because a bubble will burst, by definition bubbles burst. So when they burst, they impact the investors adversely. That's not a good thing. So yes, that is also true. But are there others where the valuation parameters seem to be off the charts and not supported, by fundamentals at all, and completely appearing to be, as regulators like to call it, irrational exuberance?
Well, irrational exuberance in some parts of the market. That's Madhabi Puri Butch. The market regulator is also planning more disclosures for smaller companies listing on the SME platform. The SEBI chief said the regulator is seeing signs of manipulation in the SME segment and promised more risk-based disclosures and additional surveillance as mitigation measures. The BSE SME platform went live in March of 2012. In the last 12 years, 483 SMEs have listed using the new platform, raising over 6,000 crore rupees. After this, more than 4,500 7,000 crore rupees were raised last year alone. The total market cap now stands at 1.35 lakh crore rupees. Out of the 483 companies that listed on the platform, 183 have migrated to the main board. 21 companies have been suspended. Take a look.
While the desire of the regulator was to be facilitated and to have a listing environment which is not as, I would say, as well regulated as the main board, because small and medium enterprises find it hard to comply with many of those requirements, the objective was appropriate. Are there some entities which are perhaps misusing that facilitative framework? We have received feedback that that is the case. I think as a first step, we are clear that some more disclosure in terms of risk factors. So for investors to understand that the SME segment is different from the main board, the regulations are different, the disclosures are different, and therefore the nature of the risk is different. I think it's important for SEBI to underline that in terms of disclosures to the investors.
Well, that's a warning there coming in from the SEBI chief, both in terms of what she called froth in some pockets of the market, as well as what's happening as far as select SMEs are concerned, SME IPOs specifically are concerned, and need perhaps for greater disclosure. And it looks like the regulator is watching closely. Now, oil prices continue to slide, extending last week's losses. This on concerns about slowing demand in China. However, lingering geopolitical risks surrounding the Middle East and Russia has limited the decline. Speaking at an event over the weekend, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri said that any call on petrol and diesel price cut needs to be thought through by the oil marketing companies. Here's the oil minister.
I am not going to say that there won't be or there is or there can't be. Tomorrow, if the Red Sea attack takes place, then the fourth quarter may wipe out whatever you have in the first three. After all, they've had. I was civil aviation minister, and I know one of the biggest airlines. It had its 15 years earnings wiped out in 8 months. देखो, somebody asked me कि इनकी performance market बढ़ी है उसके कारण है या कुछ और किया है. तो I think this slide says it. Market बढ़ी है 39% Nifty और BPCL, GAIL, HPCL उन बाकियों की performance देखिए. Yes, they've done well. They've done well, and but in fairness to them, they said as good corporate citizens, हम नुकसान ले लेंगे, हम दाम को नहीं बढ़ने देंगे.
Well, that is the oil minister. The day's corporate story. Tata Sons is unlikely to go public in the foreseeable future. Now, that is as per sources. As per RBI rules, Tata Sons, which was classified as an upper layer NBFC by the RBI in September of 2022, has to go public by September of 2025. However, sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the group is considering multiple other options to adhere with the RBI rules. The option on the table includes cutting down debt on a group level and hiving off units like Tata Capital. Tata Sons has offered no comment when we reached out to them for a response to our story. Select Tata Group stocks declined in trade on the back of this uncertainty. Shares of Indigo's parent company Interglobe Aviation soared after a large block deal that saw 7% equity change hands. The buyer and the seller in the 7,000 crore rupee deal are unknown as of now. However, CNBC-TV18 had reported earlier that Interglobe Aviation promoter Rakesh Gangwal was to sell up to 5.8% stake. The sale would bring Gangwal's stake in the airline to below 20%. JSW Group and MG Motor India will seal their 5,000 crore rupee electric vehicle joint venture with MG Motor on the 20th of March. This as per sources who say that PE investor Everstone Capital has also picked up a stake in MG Motor's India operations. Parikshit standing by with more. Parikshit, so 20th is when we could perhaps see the deal being inked?
Well, the joint venture between the JSW Group and China's SAIC-owned MG Motor India had been signed last year. In the next few weeks, both companies are likely to conclude the terms of the agreement, close the transaction. On the 20th of March, we believe the commencement of operations under this joint venture will be announced. There's going to be a big announcement made in Mumbai on the 20th of March by none other than Chairman and MD of JSW Group, Sajjan Jindal, Parth Jindal, the MD of JSW Cements, and Rajiv Chaba, CEO Emeritus of MG Motor India. Both the companies will unveil their roadmap for the automobile sector in India, electric vehicles especially, and what this JV will do and the investment by JSW Group and other entities will do is to expand the reach and scale of MG Motor in India, both in terms of manufacturing and retail sales footprint across India. So 35% stake is going to be picked up by JSW Group. We also believe that PE investor Everstone Capital has picked up a stake in MG Motor India's operation. MG Motor dealers and company employees could also pick up a stake between 3 to 5%. And the total investment that would be coming in as a result of these investments by JSW Group, Everstone, dealers and employees would be around 5,000 crores. Remember, MG Motor had announced that it's working to divest up to 51% stake in India. It also has a plan for an IPO in India over the next 5 years or so. JSW Group had recently announced a 40,000 crore investment for an integrated EV plant in Odisha. Sources say this is different from the synergies between the JSW Group and MG Motor India. We reached out to all three companies, MG Motor India, JSW Group and Everstone Capital. All three declined to comment, but all eyes on the 20th of March when this mega roadmap for the automobile sector will be announced by JSW Group and MG Motor India.
Parikshit, many thanks for joining us. Now, beleaguered edtech company Byju's said that it paid full salaries for February to just about 25% of its employees in the base salary bracket. The company, in its communication, has apologized to staff for the delay in salary disbursements and blamed its investors for the financial crunch. Byju said, and I quote, "A group of investors has blocked the funds raised through the rights issue, rendering them temporarily unavailable for our business purposes. This situation has created immediate financial constraint for the company. However, we assure you that we are actively working to resolve this matter and restore normalcy," end of quote. The company further said it has made alternate funding arrangements to ensure payments are made to employees, adding that the company's commitment is to serve students with passion and dedication, and it is taking necessary measures to continue operations smoothly. Market regulator SEBI has amended the regulations governing real estate investment trusts, or REITs. SEBI will allow more participation from retail investors in fractional ownership of real estate projects. The new rules reduce the minimum investment cap for an investor from 25 lakh rupees to 10 lakh rupees. Shivani joins us now with more. Shivani.
Well, this is good news for many of us who have always dreamt of buying that luxurious holiday home or that out-of-budget commercial property. SEBI has now notified the regulations for small and medium REITs, which says that you can invest a minimum of 10 lakh rupees and buy a fraction of the real estate property. Now, under the new framework, SM REITs can raise funds starting from 50 crore by issuing units to a minimum of 200 investors. The funds will be used for acquiring and managing real estate assets, generating income for investors. So, if you are investing in a commercial property, you will also get the part of the rental yield. Important to note that most fractional ownership plans currently have 25 lakh as the minimum investment, and SEBI has now made it more accessible at 10 lakh rupees. This market is only a few years old in India, while it has made its mark globally. Fractional ownership investment started about 5 years ago in the Indian market, and according to industry estimates, the size of the market was around 1,500 crores in 2020, and since then the market has grown to a whopping 4,000 crores currently. Industry experts suggest that there can be a 30% compounded CAGR growth in the AUM of the fractional ownership market over the next 4 to 5 years. With SEBI regulating the space and mandating a listed trust structure, the industry is expected to see bigger players entering the market soon. Currently, the market doesn't have many players, and the majority of the AUM is held by a select few like Property Share and Strata Prop. Now, also important to note that industry experts also suggest that since luxury real estate is really picking up in India, fractional ownership can be a good way for investors to take part in the real estate rally without doling out big money. Back to you.
Shivani, many thanks. Now, the Supreme Court has dismissed State Bank of India's plea seeking an extension till the 30th of June to furnish details on electoral bonds. A 5-judge constitution bench headed by the Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud directed State Bank of India to disclose the details to the Election Commission by the close of business hours tomorrow. Further, the court has directed the Election Commission to publish the data by the 15th of March. Ashmit joins us now with more. Ashmit, SBI's plea being dismissed outright by the Supreme Court. Of course, the court also saying that, look, we don't need you to match the details of the donation with the beneficiaries, just put all the data that you have out.
Indeed, the Supreme Court is not impressed with the conduct of the State Bank of India, and the Supreme Court made it known to the State Bank. Number one, State Bank's request for extension till June 30th has been struck down. In fact, they've been served with a 24-hour deadline. By March 12th, which is end of the day tomorrow, SBI has to furnish all the electoral bond details to the Election Commission. Subsequently, Election Commission will have to publish that data on its own website by no later than March 15th. But coming back to the conduct of the SBI, the Supreme Court asked some tough questions. Number one, why was this application for extension filed on March 4th, which is just 2 days prior to the Supreme Court prescribed deadline? Another question that was asked is that even as the SBI is seeking that extension till June 30th, no information was made available as to what work has been done in terms of uncovering the information, which SBI claims will take 3 more months of time. So with that, the Supreme Court has asked SBI to furnish this data by tomorrow and has accompanied it with a warning. The Supreme Court has said that an officer no lower than MD will have to file an affidavit confirming that, number one, this has been complied with, and secondly, the Supreme Court has warned that while at this stage they may not be taking any contempt action against the bank, if this deadline is not complied with, the new deadline, which is tomorrow, if this deadline is not complied with, the Supreme Court may take contempt action against the bank. So strong words there coming in from the Apex Court. As to what is the body of data that we can expect, well, the Supreme Court, as a part of its judgment records, as a part of its order records, that SBI, by its own admission, says that the KYC data of donors is readily available. The data of political parties and the encashment of these bonds is also readily available. This is the information that will now be made available by the State Bank of India. The question, however, that is now being asked is whether the information supplied will have a matching of between two silos. Will we have the information as to which donor supplied how much money to which political party? That's a big question mark right now. We'll, of course, reaching out to the lawyers for more clarity on that. But for now, from what we understand from the order, the two silos of information, KYC of donors as well as political parties, which are the recipients, that data will be furnished by SBI tomorrow. 15th of March is when the Election Commission will publish it on its own website.
Well, that certainly is the hope that the State Bank of India will furnish those details by tomorrow, which is the latest deadline set by the Supreme Court, and the court making it clear if SBI fails to do so, they would be inclined to hold SBI in contempt. Congress leader Jaya Thakur has moved the Supreme Court to restrain the union government from appointing a new election commissioner. In a petitioner, she's seeking a panel comprising the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition and the Chief Justice of India to decide on the appointments just ahead of the Lok Sabha elections. Now, over the weekend, Arun Goyal resigned as the election commissioner, leaving only the Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar in the 3-member poll body. Remember, we are still waiting for the election dates to be announced. We will head into a break, but up next, India signs a landmark free trade agreement with 4 nations that are not part of the European Union, including Switzerland and Norway. That and more when we return. Free trade agreement with 4 nations that are not part of the European Union. The pact with nations which are expected to see investments worth $100 billion in India over the next 15 years. Abhimanyu joins us now with more. Abhi.
The recently signed India-EFTA trade deal will allow for availability of Swiss chocolates, watches and biscuits at lower rates in India. This is the first trade pact India has signed with the Western Hemisphere and the developed world, and is possibly going to serve as a template for many other future trade deals. The investment of around $100 billion is expected to flow in the next 15 years, which is expected to generate as many as 10 lakh jobs. Also, there is a clause in the agreement which allows India to rejig the duty structure if at all the proposed investment does not flow in. Areas which are deemed sensitive from both the sides, like dairy and agriculture, have been kept outside the ambit of the trade deal, and several areas like IPR, gender and climate have been included as part of the deal. As many as 105 subsectors stand to benefit, which is going to benefit professionals on both sides, even as the EFTA countries and India want to benefit from this trade deal, and India wants to expand the market for several of its goods which are currently being exported to Europe, particularly EFTA countries.
And the EFTA countries will help creating new jobs, new investments, new prosperity, and I'm very happy and proud that we have reached so far.
which products, which goods and services can we possibly see lower tariffs on both the sides? Which industries do you feel are going to immediately benefit?
Actually, all of them, because we will eliminate all custom duties, approximately on 98-99% of all the exports from India today. We will also bring new investments. We will help creating 1 million new jobs here in India. And this will happen quite fast. So already when the agreement is implemented, we will reduce tariffs on most of the products, and then we will continue also to reduce tariffs in the years to come.
Well, Hollywood's most anticipated night, the Oscars, concluding with glitz and much fanfare. Oppenheimer, the big winner, Christopher Nolan's film on the atom bomb maker, bagged 7 awards at the Oscars. This includes Best Picture. Christopher Nolan's directorial was in the race with 13 other nominations. The film also fetched Nolan his first ever Oscar. He previously lost out despite being nominated for Dunkirk. Cillian Murphy won the Oscar for the Best Actor in a leading role for Oppenheimer. His co-star in the film, Robert Downey Jr., took home the award for Best Supporting Actor. In his acceptance speech, Murphy said they made a film about the man who created the atom bomb, but he dedicates his award to all peacemakers. Emma Stone won the Best Actress award for her role as Bella Baxter in Poor Things. This is her second Oscar. Well, that's all the action there from the Oscars. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. Stay tuned to CNBC-TV18 News. Will continue right after this short break.